The following is a Hoop Ball presentation.
Hello and welcome to the Hoop Ball NBA DFS Today podcast. My name is Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, and I am here today to go over our Tuesday, October 29th, three-game DFS slate. I am riding solo tonight, and luckily it's just a three-game slate, so it should be a pretty quick one. But before we get started, real quickly, just want to thank our presenting sponsor, Fantasy Draft. They are the only rake-free fantasy site in the industry. They have some phenomenal contests over there, including their $30,000 guaranteed pick and roll each day, and the $7,500 layup, which is only $5 to enter. And definitely jump over to fantasydraft.com, sign up with the promo code HoopBall, and get that first free week free up to $1,000 in contests. So definitely appreciate them. Also have just a couple quick mentions of other sponsors that have jumped on board with our venture here, and we're really excited about. Manscaped.com. You want to go there. Also utilize the promo code HoopBall, 20% off your order and free shipping. Also, mybookie.ag, which if you want to bet sports, that's the only place to go online. They are the best. And our home-based Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee Company that's been with Hoop Ball since day one. So just wanted to give a couple of quick mentions there. We thank them all for their sponsorship, and they are the ones that make it possible for us to offer this free content 7 days a week, which I firmly believe is the best NBA DFS content in the industry. So we appreciate all of you tuning in every day. We're growing so fast, it's not even funny, and we appreciate every single one of you listeners out there. All right, quickly into the three-game slate. The first one is a 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time lock, so you get about generally 30 minutes more than normal. Usually it's a 7 p.m. lock Eastern, so that's a good thing. The first game is the Atlanta Hawks and the Miami Heat. Atlanta's coming off a game tonight, so they're on a back-to-back. Miami's just getting home from a long road trip where they had a couple of back-to-back games on the road. But they did have yesterday off, so they'll be a little more fresh. They also have Jimmy Butler coming back for this game. So that's going to change the whole entire usage aspect of this game and definitely jumble some things up. Let's look at the Atlanta side first of all. Obviously, Trae Young has been phenomenal DFS-wise this year. He's in the top 5 DFS scoring points leaders for the whole league. But his price is showing that. He did very well tonight. But again, at the price level that he's hitting at now, it's starting to become tough to roster him. Yes, it's a 3-game slate, and it's a little bit easier to figure out how you want to balance things out, and not having to choose between 22 starting point guards like we had this evening, and so. I don't know. Trae Young at that price, it just makes me nervous. Miami's defense is pretty solid. They do a good job on perimeter players. So I'm not going to be going to the Trae Young well in this one. In actuality, really, it's a pace down game for Atlanta because Miami plays slower than they do. And really, nobody else jumps out to me. Coming off a back-to-back, I think they're going to rotate guys a little bit more. They're starting to get Herter back into the mix more, and Hunter, Bembry, Reddish, Collins, Jabari Parker, are all getting minutes. It looks like Bruno Fernando's starting to split minutes with Alex Len at point to even more confuse things. So my best advice on this Atlanta game is fade it. If you're hell bent on getting Trae Young in there, I wouldn't blame you for that. I mean, how can I tell you to fade a top 5 DFS score thus far in the league? But I'm not playing anybody from Atlanta, even though there's only 3 games on the slate. That is going to be my fade. I do like Jimmy Butler coming back. I like the fact that he's fresh. The narrative coming back after just becoming a dad seems to always work out. It's really weird. So I definitely like him. I love Bam Adebayo for this Monday or this Tuesday slate. I think that he just smashes. Len can definitely not stick with him, and I think he'll take advantage of the rookie Fernando. So I love both of those guys. It looks like, Kendrick Nunn and Tyler Hero are definitely splitting a few minutes, in that guard rotation with Winslow and Dragic, which worries me because none of their prices are dirt cheap anymore, and there's a lot of splitting of minutes there. I mean, and now with Butler coming back, all 4 of those guys take a usage hit, which is a big concern for me. So I'm going to fade that group, and believe me, I've used all of them in the last week in different games, and they fit well. But for me, I'm starting my build with 2 guys that aren't super cheap in Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, and they're going to be 100% lock and loads for me. All right, we go on to game 2 on the slate, and it's a 9 o'clock Eastern game, and it's the Dallas Mavericks at the Denver Nuggets. And everybody knows Denver's a little bit tough to play with the elevation. There's an adjustment there. It's definitely advantageous for a home court advantage. Denver is coming off back-to-back. They played a hard-fought game tonight, a real ugly defensive game, actually. But, it is going to be a back-to-back. Denver rotates a lot of players. They're a confusing team to try to figure out sometimes for sure. And, it makes it a little bit tough between splitting minutes as it is, coming off a back-to-back, playing against Dallas, who is playing at a much faster pace than they have before, but still not one of the fastest teams in the league. Denver's definitely played a slower pace this season. Tonight's game shows that as well, being a low-scoring game. So there is some concerns and red flags in this game that definitely you have to consider. As far as the Mavericks side of the ball, I want to sort of talk about them first because, Luka, again, he's also in that top 5 DFS scores thus far this year and has been an absolute monster. And hard not to play him. He is going to be my most expensive guy on the board. I am going to stick with him. I think that he's in a groove. I like the matchup. I know, Gary Harris, if he guards him, is a hell of a defender. But if Jamal Murray's on him or somebody else in that rotation, I think he can take advantage of that. Plus, I think he's just too big and strong for Harris as well. I think he can back him down and like I said this week, I mean, if you watch the games, it's very similar to Westbrook when he was with the Thunder and Harden with the Rockets. It seems like he gets every defensive rebound. Everybody's clearing out, making space for him so that he can get the defensive board and push the ball up the floor. So then he's having the ability to get the assist or the bucket. So he's just a DFS, points per minute monster right now, and I don't think you can fade that. I also like the fact that Dwight Powell is expected back in this game. I think that's going to help Luka because it gives him a presence inside, and the Mavericks have seriously lacked that. Maxi Kleber's done a nice job, but he's shooting threes and he's spreading it out. Porzingis, even though he's 7'3", is not a post player at all. He's going to play mid-range or three-point shots. So they haven't played Boban a minute this season. So no one really has posted up at all. And I think that's actually hurt Luka a little bit. I think he likes playing that pick and roll with Powell. I think that's going to be a big plus. He loves throwing the lob to him as well. And I think that's going to up Luka's numbers. I'm not going to play Powell yet because I think he'll certainly be on a limits restriction with his first game back. But certainly a guy down the road that I'm going to be looking at. The other guy I'm going to play is, I've been preaching don't play anybody but Luka or Porzingis on the Mavericks, but DeLon Wright has had 2 solid games in a row. He's solidified minutes in the rotation, even though for some bizarre reason Carlisle didn't have him in at the end of that game 2 nights ago against Portland. He had Brunson in there, and that really hurt the Mavericks defensively. Still can't figure that out, but I don't think that Carlisle will make that mistake again. So I'm gonna roll DeLon Wright out there at a really good value price. You have to have some value numbers in there as well, and I think he really fits the bill against Denver. I think he's a tough matchup for them because of his height, and I think he can get some things done. So Kristaps, I like. It's just that he did play pretty good extended minutes the night before last. I know Carlisle wants to try to protect him a little bit, so I can see him being under the 30-minute number, more like 27, 28, which is good, but at his price right now, it's just not worth it for me. So I'm going Luka, DeLon Wright, and that's it from that side of the ball. Now, back to Denver, I sort of alluded to that earlier. It's just such a mess of trying to figure out who's going to get minutes, especially coming off a back-to-back. Is there any value there? I don't trust most of these guys. Millsap has not done that well. Murray's been playing a little dinged up. I don't want anything to do with Barton, Harris, Beasley, Craig, all of those dudes that split minutes. I am definitely not a Jokic guy. Everybody knows that how you roster a guy that weighs 350 pounds. He's not playing on my team. I don't care if he did throw a triple-double on the board. He had a very subpar game this evening. And I just, on a back-to-back, carrying that much weight and being out of shape, no thanks. At that price, he's way overpriced. So, I believe it or not, I don't like anybody on Denver. And, I know it's slim pickings, and I'm not recommending a lot of guys. But the guys, I'm going to be playing. I'm generally a cash player, and I'll be playing probably one lineup in this schedule and plugging it into some 50-50s and heads up and signal entries, and really not entering any GPPs because I don't really like the flyers all over the board with some of these secondary guys that are just, maybe only capable of 10 or 15 fantasy points. So I don't want to dumpster dive. I want to select the right guys, plug them in, where I really see fit, and that's what I'm going to try to do. So before we go to the third game, which is the Grizzlies at the Lakers, and I love this game. This is my favorite game of the night. Memphis Grizzlies are in the top 5 in the league in pace right now, which is phenomenal. I mean, especially when, the DFS world has this psychological block of Memphis is a slow-paced, grinded-out team. And I know I've mentioned this on like 3 shows in a row, but it's such a DFS edge for our listeners out there is, you got to remember they have a new coach, Coach Jenkins. They're young. They push the ball. They're all about pace. I watched them win the NBA Summer League where they just pushed. And they're going to be a top, 10 pace team in this league this year. And, that speed up is going to be fantastic for opponents. And the Lakers need it because they're playing slow as hell. They were going into this game are the slowest paced team in the league right now. Who would ever believe that? Opposite of Showtime. But I think that's a little bit of an anomaly. It's a very small sample size of a couple of games. I think they will eventually pick up the speed. And they get Rondo back in there and some different guys. They'll start picking it up a little. And I think playing Memphis is going to help them. I love the pace of this game. I like the stars in this game. And I think it's going to be a good game to play. But I'm going to get into that more. But I do want to mention tomorrow, you'll be listening to this on hopefully Tuesday on your way to work, at lunchtime, during a break, getting yourself ready for the 3-game slate on Tuesday night. Of course, we're recording this on Monday evening, as we always do to get you ready for the next day. But don't forget tomorrow. Get on hoop-ball.com. Get on our DFS threads and follow that. All the news will be on there. We have Miles and Andy posting things throughout the day. It's constantly going to be updated. You really need to keep an eye on that for any changes, anybody sitting out, any late injury announcements. You can't afford to put a guy in your lineup that's going to be minutes restriction or out. So follow that. Also follow our DFS team on Twitter. That's where we're all just firing tweets out all day. At Hoopball Fantasy is where all our blurbs and all of our writers are posting things. You can find me at Joe Sarvadi, JoeSarvadi, and our other 2 DFS fellas at Mike Apotria, MikeApotria, and my man Andrew Hansen is at Language Olympic. All one, just as it sounds. So look us up, follow us on there. Listen to our DFS podcast every day. We've got, the latest and best up-to-date information that you can find in this industry, and we're 7 days a week. And you can find us anywhere podcasts are heard. We're on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean, iHeart, Spotify, YouTube, you name it, we're on there. All you have to do is type in Hoopball DFS today. You don't even have to put NBA in there, and we're going to pop up. We're getting all kinds of activity, and the only thing we'd ask on this side is you take 30 seconds or a minute and hit the thumbs up on YouTube. Click 5 stars on iTunes. Put a like, put a positive review. That really helps with our sponsors. They're loving the fact that we're getting that feedback. And again, a quick sponsor thanks to our presenting sponsor, Fantasy Draft, who certainly with our relationship now with Hoopball has brought this forward, and Manscaped.com, MyBookie.ag, and Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee Company, all jumping on board to make all of this possible. So we want to thank them, and we would ask you to support our sponsors, and we'll keep being able to bring this free content to you on a daily basis. Okay, back into this last game, which is my favorite game of the night. It is the Grizzlies and Lakers. And I like people on both sides of the ball here. If you happen to watch the last game of the Grizzlies, it was the coming out party for Ja Morant. And big kudos to my one of my DFS brothers, Andrew Hansen, the at Language Olympic. He is a big Ja Morant fan. He's been really preaching him and waiting for the breakout game, and he was on him and did cash the other night in DFS. And, I have no problem jumping on this bandwagon. I think, Ja's going to eat up being in LA, being in the spotlight. None of that seems to rattle this kid at all. I think that he'll come out and play big minutes and have a really solid game. His price is still reasonable enough that you can plug him in there and utilize him. And for that reason, I think he's a legitimate play. The other play I like in this game is Brandon Clark, the other rookie. He's also inexpensive, and he's also coming into his own. And I think he'll get a solid run. Joe Val has played great, but he's on a very strict limits restriction of about 25 minutes. And it's hurt Memphis in some of their games because, he's really kicked butt in the first half and then just is able to play just a little bit in the second half, but that restriction is still in place. So you really, to me, it's hard to play a guy under that kind of restriction. Triple J had a nice game, but, I was surprised the last 8-9 minutes of the fourth quarter when the game was on the line. Jackson was not in there. So I don't know if it's his foul propensity or what the deal is there, but I don't think he's the main guy that's going to get the crunch minutes like that at the cost that he is. So my two targets in this game are Ja Morant and Brandon Clark. Even though Jay Crowder's getting monster minutes, and I had him in the last game, overtime game, where he hit the three on the buzzer, and he did okay fantasy-wise, but he only had 2 baskets in 38 minutes. And, he's a great player on the floor for Memphis in real life, but I would really caution DFS-wise taking him because, believe me, I watched that game rooting for every ounce of every point he could squeeze out, and it was like, getting blood from a stone. So I would steer clear of him going forward. On the Lakers side of the ball, I do have, the one big spend up guy that I'm going with on so far, but it allows me one other guy that I can take in this game. And, obviously, price-wise, will it be LeBron James or Anthony Davis? Now, if you try to take both with some of the other guys that I've already mentioned, then you're looking at monster stars and scrubs, and 2 or 3 guys, it's going to be dumpster dive, value city, beyond belief. And I don't want to go there on a 3-game slate. I think it's too risky in cash. So I think you just got to, pull up to the table and make a decision. Is it, LeBron James or Anthony Davis? And almost everybody's taken Davis. I think he'll be the highest owned player on the slate. And I'm going to go a little contrarian here, and I'm going to play James instead of Davis. I think that, he's a little bit cheaper. He had a horrific first half in the last game and still was able to put 40 fantasy points on the board. I think that the up pace with Memphis is going to help him. And I really like LeBron to throw a bigger number, and I think he'll match Davis or surpass him slightly in fantasy points at a cheaper value. The other guys to fill out your lineup, if you need one more value guy to do that, you certainly can flip the coin on McGee and Howard. Howard has definitely been outplaying McGee, and the price is starting to show there. But you can make value with either one of those guys. It's sort of pick your poison there if you want to go in that vein. The other side is the other guy that's a decent value that gets big minutes, and I think gets enough periphery stats also to fill out your lineup is Danny Green. He's going to make the open three. He's going to get some steals. He'll grab a couple of rebounds in there, and he's a good guy to fill out your lineup. So again, with 3 games and 6 teams, that's a good 15 or 16 players that I recommend pretty strongly, which gives you a really good base, to build some lineups here. Specifically, I really highlighted like 10 of them. So, I love the fact that we have a little bit smaller pool. I mean, it's been tough getting used to these 22 teams like we had tonight and just trying to cherry pick each player out of there. It's almost sort of fun to have a 3-game slate and be able to just zone in on exactly, who I want to take. So that's really it. Hopefully that was very, informative to everybody. I really spent some good time on this 3 games, being that it was only 3 games. So I think, hopefully you really take advantage of some of the advice I brought forward. I think you can put together some really good cash and single entry winners on all of the sites for the Tuesday night card. Wanted to give a quick mention. If you listen to our show every day, Mike Apotri and I have a chicken suit challenge. We have to do a live show on the air at the All-Star break, and whoever loses these challenges has to actually wear a full chicken suit on the air, which is going to be wonderful because it's going to be Apotria. And we are tied 2-2 with our challenge Monday night. Somehow, some way, old Air Mike decided he wanted to challenge my Shea Gilgeous-Alexander with Mike Conley. And the last I saw, Conley was 0 for 6 from the field for the game. I'm not sure if that's where he finished up, but it was an epic beating. It almost should be worth 2 chicken suit points, but we'll just accept the victory in crunching style and tie it up 2-2, and then we'll get back at it on our next show and see what see where we go from there. The tomorrow night show on Tuesday night is Mike and I, so we will get a chicken suit challenge to see who the leader is, which hopefully I go back up 3-2 with tomorrow night's slate, because you guys know who I like. Mike, I'm sure, will listen back to the show and have a couple guys lined up that I'll get to choose from for the challenge. So that'll be fun. But I did want to make mention of that. Again, definitely keep an eye on my Twitter and the Hoopball Twitter, because we'll be kicking out that Coaches Challenge contest tomorrow. It'll be up tomorrow afternoon, and get in there. It's only $2 to enter. It was a blast last week, and it's just great bragging rights. You can win some money and some cool swag, so jump into that. All right, I think that's it. Again, I hope you have a wonderful Tuesday, and I thank you for joining us on Hoopball NBA DFS today. For both Dan Bestritz at our Hoopball home office, and for my 2 DFS partners, Mike Apotri and Andrew Hansen, I'm Coach, We will catch you again tomorrow when we look to crush it in NBA DFS. Take care. Have a good one.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.